Hello viewers and welcome to another Odyssey raid guide. This time we are tackling Paradox Wave, which is the second of the tier 5 raids brought to us by Origin Crisis. This is Anhur and I am joined by...
Ivybot.
Dreadwolf.
Mitchell.
Tesseract.
Flamefury.
Senilex.
Borsca.
And much like our previous Nexus raid video, we're going to have a four-way split. So at the top left you'll see Tesseract, which was a quantum controller. You have Mitchell at the top right, nature healer. Senilex at the bottom left, an ice tank. And myself, Anhur, at the bottom right, a quantum DPS. We've ventured into the first tunnel where the boss waiting for us is...
The Oppressor.
The Paradox Oppressor. In each of the tunnels you'll have a pretty standard fight up to the boss. It's a few waves of ads you have to take down. Nothing worth pointing out at this moment except that this was recorded pre-hotfix. So if you're flight and you try to fly, you will be grounded.
This raid isn't particularly friendly to epileptics. As can be seen by the wibbly-wobbly effects in the background.
The timey-wimey.
You got all different kinds of ads in here. Each of them has their own mechanics, but they're not too troubling.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard journey up there. The tank pulls everything in and you burn them down.
The ads that you're facing here are going to be the same as ones you're going to be facing throughout the rest of the raid. There's only a couple that worth mentioning really. There's the Executioner, who the tanks don't like very much. And the Gazers and the Watchers can't be controlled, so you can't stun them or pull them or anything, so they can be quite annoying as well.
They're the ones who kind of float in the air.
What I've noticed in these tunnels though is if you get slightly ahead of the tank, all the ads will jump on you, so make sure you stay behind the tank. Let him pull.
The other thing to mention about the tunnels is you see these blue spheres that are dotted about in the up the length of the tunnel. They will throw out little blue balls that will do damage to you. If you're standing too close to them, you'll get hit by more than one, and it can quite easily just one-shot you.
In full tier 5 gear, I've seen those balls hitting for between 2.5 to 5,000 damage. So staying away is your best option.
One of the annoying things is that you can actually get juggled between balls, so you get juggled into the air by one and then struck down by the other one, so you get killed.
Also, best not to stand right in the middle of the ball, so that every single one it flings out hits you.
Taking one for the team.
Okay, so we've engaged the boss here, and as a tank I've just turned him around from the group, so he's facing down to the bottom of the hill. And what I'm doing, I'm just timing my shields between his swipe attacks. He will often do a charge. You can tell when he's going to do a charge because he'll shoot beams from his eyes, and then he'll often charge in that direction he fired the beams.
Most of the bosses in this raid, they've got a kind of a cone AoE attack, which will one-shot you if you're not a tank. This guy's the same, but they all have their unique mechanics as well. And with the Oppressor, he's got a couple of stun beam things, but the main difference with him is when he throws his arms back and he sort of rears his head back, he drops a ball on someone. And the ball is not something that you can break out of, it's something you're stuck in. If someone comes and picks you up and smashes it, you die. If you get thrown at the boss, you die. If you stay in the sphere after about 5 seconds, you die. So if you end up in that sphere, you're dead. The rest of your teammates then have to figure out, do they pick you up and move you and smash you somewhere else to get it easier to rally you, or do they just smash you on the spot if they need you back up in time? It's an annoying mechanic, but it's one that can be dodged if you see him doing the animation for it. You just have to move out of the way.
I think that's generally when he throws his arms up into the air, isn't it? If you roll as soon as he does that.
Yeah, I mean, for any player, if he's looking in your direction, you need to just move. You need to be really quick and just get back. You can see you've just done it there on the bottom left of Senilex's screen. Was a really good perspective.
It's definitely something that if he's facing the boss and suddenly turns away from him and starts looking at you, you need to move.
He does a frontal 180 attack, usually at the tank in between his swipes, that can catch tanks out if they're not prepared for it, as they take the full frontal of the cone 180. He's just done it there.
Yeah, there's very little excuse to get caught with some of these mechanics. They've got really good tells, and you need to be awake and focused. You can't just say, I'm going to DPS through this attack if it can be avoided. You need to move.
The other thing that we're going to be covering for each of the bosses is that they all have these soft enrages, which they won't just kill the team, but sometimes it'll end up that way anyway. With the Oppressor, I'm not sure that we're aware of exactly what causes it with him. It might be if too many people get caught by the ball attack. But his soft and range is, well, he'll do his stun beam attack, but it won't stun people, it'll just one-shot everyone that it hits. At which point the rest of the team has to either rally them or they can come back in. This is something new that we've seen with this raid that we've not seen before, is that if you die, you can run back in. You rally at the start, you come back into the tunnel, you run all the way up the tunnel and you can rejoin the fight. However, halfway up the tunnel, there'll be a new group of ads that will have spawned. And it's possible to get past without bringing them with you, but it's very unlikely. So you then have to weigh the decision of, do you run past and bring more ads up to the rest of the group, or do you wait at the end without so the team has to do without you?
So next up is the Paradox Ravager. Again, the tunnel at the beginning has a few sections of ads, but we won't show those. It's a pretty standard formula.
This boss does not like to stand still.
No, it's part of his mechanic. He will run, and then when he stops running, a fountain will kind of spawn where he lands, and he'll target any member of the team.
You saw the Oppressor that we've just seen. He did a charge as well. These two both look very similar, both have very similar effects. But this guy doesn't have a ball attack. He summons these fountains.
Yeah, he summons the fountains every time he stops.
The fountains...
Very important to keep Batman alive here. Put something down that destroys these fountains.
The fountains are incredibly annoying. They do put out a small dot that's not like a huge amount of damage, but most importantly, they heal the boss when he's standing in them. So this is one of the only times in the entire game that you're going to need to have that heal debuff on your controller bar, and you need to keep that heal debuff on him at all times.
I've just seen some ads spawn.
Yeah, so when those ads come out, as a DPS, particularly myself as a Quantum, I do some heavy AoE damage, so I switch focus to those. The fountains themselves count as entities, so your damage does split on them, and because he moves around so much, it can be quite troublesome to DPS down, but it's a battle of longevity. As long as you keep on him, people are avoiding the mechanics.
The fountains themselves can be DPS down, but they've got a lot of hit points, so it is important to keep Batman up all the time because he can take them down very quickly. But just from deep...
He's probably the most important of the Batmen to keep up. The others, not that useful, but this guy you really want to keep up.
So you've seen a
you-
few people go down. Mitchell at the top right perspective, we didn't get to him in time, but he can fly back in. He's just making his way straight back down.
Looks like he managed to avoid the ads in the middle of the tunnel there.
This
Just-
boss can hit quite hard compared to perhaps the other 3 bosses. It can be quite difficult to tank due to his charges. If you got some healers with you who's really quick at the burst heals, then it is possible, if you're appropriately geared, to kind of tank him and take his melee swipes, but they do hit like a truck. Here, what I'm doing, I'm just trying to range tank him, just kind of kite him around, take him away from the fountains, and just try my best to avoid his attacks. As I think when we recorded this, our gear wasn't as what it is now anyway.
And this will at least save the other group members from his normal attacks, which would one-shot him.
With the dot mechanic on the fountains, if any of your team members go down and they've got a fountain around them, it can be quite difficult to res them unless you've got a shield around you, because you'll be getting hit.
We're probably going to get more ads showing up soon. The ads tend to spawn when the boss gets to 75%, 50% and 25% health, so you can gauge when they're going to come out. Sometimes you end up with double lots of ads, sometimes you don't get any at all, just the raid glitching or whatever. But yeah, you can usually anticipate when you're going to get them and set up your team accordingly. Don't hang about at the area where the ads spawn when he's getting close to 50% health or whatever.
And this boss, like the previous boss, has got that charge that you need to watch out for, and unless you're a tank, that charge is going to one-shot you. You can avoid that just by rolling out of the way, although the range around him is massive.
Again, one of the type of ads that this boss will spawn is the Executioner among one of the 2 others. That is quite important, perhaps, to get the Executioner down, as he's probably the heavy hitting of the ads.
The soft and rage mechanic that the Ravager has is, we think it's set off by if you let him stand in his own fountains for too long. So if he kind of gets this glowy purple effect, you can kind of see it at the moment. When he's getting healed from his fountains, if you let him stay in the fountains too long, if you let him have that effect for too long, he will do a one-shot beam. He'll do it maybe 4 or 5 times in a row. He'll just target someone and he'll just one-shot them regardless of whether they're a tank or not. It is even more annoying than the other one, because if you get hit by that, it's possible that you can get these tiny little flames around you that will one-shot anyone who comes to try and rally you. But generally speaking, it's really difficult to see these flames because they look a little bit like the fountains. I think you've just seen in the bottom right, somebody got hit with that. Certainly, this is when he's doing his one-shot attack now.
And bottom left, and top right left.
But yeah, the tiny little flames that you get around the body of the person that's been one-shot, you have to be really, really careful when you go to rally people when he's been doing his one-shot attack.
With this tunnel as well, you'll definitely at some point have somebody that has to rally and come back in, as you can see in the bottom right corner there. But it's also important to watch out for the ads at the top of the tunnel and make sure that your team's in a position where they got control of the ads at the bottom of the tunnel if you're going to drag a load more down when you run back in, because that's going to be a raid wiper.
You can just see in the bottom right that there's tiny flames around Anhur's body at the moment. There's barely any kind of effect on it at all, but it'll, as I say, it'll kill anybody that comes to get them, and they only go away with maybe 2 seconds left on the rally counter, so it can be really frustrating.
a few of the bosses, their frontal cone attack is also a block breaker. So
Yeah,
trying to block
worth
through it is just the
mentioning.
worst thing you can do. It's usually best to just jump and hope that you avoid it, or just take it to the face and hope you can survive it. Because blocking just guarantees your death.
The only way to avoid the one shot when he starts going into that phase is just to back away out of range. As you can kind of see on the top left, I did there. And then ran into the flames around someone, which was really good. But the idea is just, so long as you keep somebody alive on the boss, he's not going to reset. You can get people to rally, you can go back to the beginning and run back in.
Almost go into kind of a survival mode and make sure you tag the boss.
Yeah, the bosses, if you bring them too far to the middle of the tunnel, they will teleport back to their starting point, and they will kind of almost drop out of combat. They will start regaining health at much increased rate. So you have to make sure, if that ever happens, if you have to kind of run away down the corridor to avoid them, and the boss teleports to the top, you have to make sure somebody else runs in and tags them to put them back into combat, like it's just happened here with us. You really need to make sure they don't start regaining the health that they get when they've kind of dropped from combat.
Mention the healing buff. Debuff.
Yeah, you really need to keep the healing debuff on.
I haven't played the Paradox wave since the hotfix. The ones that have, do you know that if the grounding effects are here on the mini bosses as well?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Anyway, you have those blue balls, you have the grounding effect.
Yeah.
The result of which is a flyer really can't do the Zerg effect to dodge the incoming the ads on the way in.
You can, it's just harder.
Yeah.
And it's also
Patient.
take much longer to get back from the start up to the end of the tunnel if you're only doing this slow jog.
Targeting
Speedsters and
can be a
acrobats are
nightmare.
fine. It's just flies that will get annoyed.
It's a targeting in here can be a nightmare, especially if you're trying to pull some ads and then
Yeah.
focus them back onto the boss, get his aggro, and think, oh, targeted a bloody fountain.
Getting the actual debuff to land as well, because the debuffs can be blocked by if there's an enemy sort of standing directly between you and the target. That might actually take the debuff instead of the thing that you throw it at, so it can be really difficult to keep those debuffs up, but you really need to make sure that healing debuff is on the boss.
Couple of ads there, you see Senilex doing a good job of grabbing the boss and the ads so that the DPS can just take everything down together. Senilex has gone down there, you can get overwhelmed with the damage and the block breaking.
I think this is my least favourite of all of the bosses in here.
Yeah, each of the others has a easier kind of understanding of their soft enrages.
The thing I feel is with the fountains counting as enemies, so that a DPS he effectively takes less damage because he's splitting it with his own personal summons. It just feels like such a slog to get this guy down.
Yeah, it's a race of the DPSing him down, as much as the fountains are healing him at the same time.
Yeah, another reason why 2 tanks is not a good option.
I mean, with 2 tanks you could probably do this, just expect to spend about 15 minutes trying to kill this guy.
We did it with 2 tanks and 1 healer at one point, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think I was part of that run. I seem to remember.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, but didn't you have 3 DPS still?
Yeah.
Exactly. So you wouldn't lose any DPS by having that second tank there.
It's just I remember it being actually easier than I expected it to be. It was in some ways it felt a lot safer than 1 tank and 2 healers.
As said previously, once you gear up a bit better, you can tank this boss in a kind of similar fashion to the previous boss, kind of in one spot. But you do need to be incredibly careful. Your health will just jump up and down like a jackrabbit.
So you're mainly range tanking this boss?
Yeah, it depends kind of what kind of healers and that you have. You need to just to adapt to the situation. Really.
And he is down. Third tunnel. Paradox Sentry.
Also known as Crab Guy.
You just seen there on the bottom left, he leapt towards Senilex. It's a mechanic you'll see very often through his fight.
He'll follow up with that standing charge thing that he's doing. You really don't want to be close to that.
Yeah, and the range on that is pretty big as well, so you want to be nowhere near him when he starts doing that. That's just that as soon as you see him jump across, just get out of there as soon as you can.
And as you saw there as well, he shielded himself, and the small orbs start to appear a bit all over the place, and you have to pick those up and throw them at the boss to break the shield.
The shield, you will only do 1 damage through the shield, and if you hit it, you will take damage, so you really want to bring that shield down as soon as you can.
4 of the orbs will spawn around him, and they'll have a timer above them. The timer is not that long, so it's best to position yourself near them just before it happens.
They always spawn in the same spot.
Senilex's perspective on the bottom left there, you've just seen ads come out. He's made his way to grab the aggro, pulling them all together as the rest of the team focuses on the ads, getting them down first.
Again, this one can be a bit of a pain in the ass to tank due to his jumping mechanic. You can kind of stay in kind of one spot, but he'll often kind of jump up and down on the spot and kind of do his hump in the floor mechanic, and which can catch you out. So again, a bit of range tanking can be a bit handy as long as you're aware of when the ads are going to spawn, so you can make your way to kind of their spawn point.
Yeah, that ground stomp. Yeah, kills tanks as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So nobody is safe.
See, I call it a standing charge, Mitch calls it a ground stomp, and Sen calls it humping the floor.
Regardless, it tends to do about 5k every second, so you don't want to be near it.
Like to point out as well, when we were recording this, we were having a bug where those summoned orbs actually fell through the floor, and if I'd like to ask if anyone knows, like after this hotfix, if they have been fixed as well.
I'm sure I saw that happen the other night, actually.
Yes, it still happens. Occasionally they'll go through the floor and you cannot grab them.
I think it's like if
really
you hit them
frustrating.
with... I think it's if you hit them with like weapon attacks or something accidentally, it might happen.
Wait, are they actually targetable?
Yeah, I think they're objects, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be TK'd.
Yeah, they are objects.
Well, they could be TK'd before, but can they still be?
Oh, I don't know.
After they put the timer thingy on them.
I have not checked.
You see every so often he's firing out these 4 or 5 golden orbs. You can jump over them. They do block break, and they do hit very hard.
And that's his cone AoE.
Yeah, so as a tank, you kind of really want to position himself away from the group, so just have a look where the group's standing, and then try and focus his attention in a different kind of direction.
And you as the team can help out this tank doing that as well. I mean, if you see the tank trying to make his way to an area where he can keep the boss facing, you want to make sure you position yourself behind the boss as often as possible.
The Batman here can be quite handy, because if you can see those yellow shields that get put up, that's the Batman that's actually summoning those around you, and they do mitigate quite a lot of damage intermittently.
Yeah, he's probably my second favourite of the Batman.
Which one is your favorite?
What with the fountain guy?
Steampunk.
GCPD. This guy's steampunk.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. My bad.
I have no idea what Ninja does.
I think he puts up a blue cloud, doesn't he? That gives you some sort of buff.
I know he puts out a little bit of a gas cloud, and he throws down those what are they called?
Caltrops.
Caltrops, yeah.
Is he the one with the warrior?
No, he's the Oppressor, the first one.
Ah. Because the warrior one, his special mechanic is that he dies.
You can take cover behind him.
The Feral Batman puts out a field on everyone that increases your crit chance.
Also, he dies.
And he dies. Because he likes meleeing a boss, which you really don't want to be near.
We have a situation here now where the tank's gone out, myself's gone out, so the rest of the team have got their wits about them and are doing a grand job of survival.
Running away.
I think there was only 2 of us left up at the point. Or was it only me? It might be only me, actually.
1 player, 2 player, you can clearly see here, it's not over until it's over. If there's still somebody there, you can still get back into the fight and carry it on.
And the first thing you should do when you get back is to tag the boss.
Yeah, just because you're there doesn't mean that you're in combat with the boss. You need to hit the boss with a weapon or preferably a power attack and make sure you actually count as being in the fight. Otherwise, we've had people come back and then 1 person dies and he's reset. The soft
this is
enrage.
looking grim.
The soft enrage for this guy is if we think it's if you don't bring his shield down often enough, he will start jumping on people and just one-shotting them when he jumps on them. And again, he'll jump a couple of times before he stops. And yeah, the only way to avoid it is to just be out of range of his jump when he starts doing it. So obviously the whole team can't be out of range of his jump. You're gonna lose people to it if it happens.
I think we have the tunnel lads what spawn halfway with us as well here now. So
That's a lot of beds.
it can be an interesting tactic if you are in a phase where the boss is one-shotting and people are dying a lot, to leave at least one of the mid lads up so that you don't get another lot of them spawning.
just kiting the ads around here at the moment till we get a full strength team back and take down some more of these ads.
When you're not in survival mode, it's always best to have the boss right at the end of the tunnel, because that's where the 4 things spawn that you have to use to take a shield down. The closer you are to them when they spawn, the better, because sometimes the timer just disappears.
Yeah, the other bosses, it doesn't really matter where you fight them in the tunnel, but this guy, you need to be in range of throwing those orbs at the shield, so...
It's best to get quite close to him before you throw it, because he does sometimes do that jump move, and then you've lost them all, because he just dodged every single one of them.
The one use that all of the Batmen have in common is that they can tank things for you. If, you know, the tank's gone down or if there's not many other people around, it's an extra target for the ads to go for the boss to jump on. So if you have an opportunity to res them, then do so. As we've said, you know, Steam Powered's got quite a useful shield, and GCPD is really useful for taking down the fountains. The other 2 in the other rooms are not as useful, but as I say, if you've got the opportunity, then take it.
After the recent hotfix, they also changed it so that when the Batmen are down, the boss hits slightly harder.
Did they?
Yes, so getting them back up is very conducive to your health. shall we
Apart
say.
from possibly the warrior one,
Yeah.
because his dead body will block quite a few of the attacks.
His live body will block them too, though. It just tends
That's
to be a
true.
bit closer to the boss's attacks. With the Sentry, the speed at which you take him down really depends on how often you can bring his shield down. We've gotten a lot better at it. He's one of the later ones that we had to get used to because of they had to hotfix in the timers above the orbs. Originally you didn't have those timers. Spotting them was incredibly difficult. It took us a good few tries to figure out exactly what the tactic was with the shield. So obviously the amount of time that he spends with the shield up is the amount of time that you're not able to DPS him, and bringing that shield down is the main priority here. What we've not touched on yet is that you can in fact fight each of these bosses in with the final boss. If you don't fight them here, if you go straight to the Tyrant, the final bosses in the room that you start in, these bosses will spawn periodically throughout the fight, and they have all the same mechanics. The thing to note is that with the Sentry, the orbs for bringing his shield down, they spawn again in specific locations in that boss fight, and it's beside the 4 pillars that you get in those rooms. All of the other bosses I don't think have any mechanics like that. You would just face them as you would normally, except you're having to do it with the boss room as well.
As you gear up as well, you can pretty much stand and tank the ads all in one spot to make it easier with the DPS. Here the gear wasn't so good, so it's kind of kiting them around with the boss.
Shield face seems to happen more frequently as the fight goes on. I don't know if that's an actual mechanic of this boss.
One thing with a lot of these bosses is when you try and use orbital strikes on them, quite often they'll move about a lot, and timing your orbital strikes can be an art form, really. With this boss, it's really easy. As soon as he starts doing his charge on the spot thing, you know he's going to be doing that for at least 5 seconds, so it's a good time to do it. But with the previous 2 that we fought, they're quite liable to just charge off in a random direction, so choosing the moment in which to hit them with an orbital strike, or even with a supercharge, you really need to kind of watch what they're doing and learn their animations and figure out when they're going to be standing still long enough to actually pull those off.
Got to be careful this guy doesn't shield as well when you drop an orbital on his head.
Yeah.
And here we are in the final tunnel, final boss, the Paradox Warrior. Probably what I would say the easiest of all 4.
Oh yeah.
Also the heaviest hitter.
All of his attacks are avoidable. I've ended up kite tanking this guy for a good 2 minutes, whilst the rest of the raid is dealing with ads halfway up the corridor.
As you can see there, he fired off a huge glowing orb, sparkly orb, that moved really slowly, but if that hits you, you are dead. And if that hits you, you are slow.
So yeah, we've just pulled the boss out just a bit up the hill and just again turned him around, so he's facing down the hill, making sure that probably I'm the closest towards the end of the tunnel, the tank's closest towards the end of the tunnel, so you're there for when the ads spawn, you'll be there first to attack.
As I understand it, fully geared tanks can take those orange balls to the face. They certainly couldn't when we first went in, but I think if they've got Reflect popped at the right moment, then they can...
It's the fortified blocking, isn't it? The neck mod.
Yeah. I don't know about fire tanks or earth tanks, but we've definitely seen the ice tanks do it.
For anyone else in the team, you do want to dodge the balls, but you don't want to start moving instantly the moment you see him turn around and have the animation to fire it, because he can change its trajectory at any moment before it's actually come out.
Yeah, the ball will
tracks
track
your
you
movement.
down. Yeah.
So if he sees that you're running left, he'll compensate for that and shoot ahead of where you are to where you will be when the ball would reach you. He's quite nasty.
There's a lot of warning on these attacks, because he'll get the red skull over his head, and then a couple of seconds later, he'll then throw it at you.
One of the most annoying things in this fight, though, is that we still have the tunnel balls, the blue balls, that will juggle you. So if you think, haha, I'm safe, and you get a blue ball to the face and get chucked into the big glowy ball, you're dead.
Yeah, this particular raid is all about positioning. You've just seen the boss there do his kind of... It's not an enrage mechanic, it's more of a kind of one-shot type thing. What he does is he does this inhale kind of animation. He'll suck you in, and then he'll throw a ball immediately in front of him. And if that catches anyone, and if that's, it usually counts for pets or backup or anything like that as well.
Or even Batman if he's lying unconscious on the ground.
Yeah, even Batman, dead Batman. If that initial attack catches anyone, then he'll immediately do another cone attack of the balls. And it's a really, really nasty attack. But as soon as he starts doing the inhale animation, you just move back away from him and you shouldn't have any problems at all.
A lot of the time it does catch Batman and explodes basically right at his feet. So if the tank hasn't backed off, because he's too busy concentrating on the boss and tanking him, then it'll just one-shot the tank. So everybody does have to back off.
As you can see though, this guy's going down pretty quickly. As Dread said, the biggest danger in this is these blue balls. You have to watch when he's throwing these orange spheres.
Again now, so he's preparing for his special attack.
As soon as that initial attack's gone off and he doesn't immediately do the other one, you know it's safe.
Like I say, that was a really nice overall strike on the ads there, it's on the bottom left.
This is one of the easy bosses to leave up at the end and take in the main room.
He doesn't, aside from the fact that the yellow orbs will kill you, he doesn't really have the same one-shot mechanics that the other bosses have. They all have one-shot kind of normal attacks that can hit you from sort of unsuspecting distance. And they have soft enrages that actually seem they can do some damage. This guy, if he enrages at all, we think he just starts spamming the balls at you, and again, they'll do a lot of damage, but they're easy to avoid, so...
So all 4 sub-bosses are down, now into the main room with the Paradox Tyrant. You see where the boss is located centrally. The hotfix of recent times has now placed a blue ball in the middle of that.
As we said before, anywhere there's a blue ball, there's a grounding effect for flight users.
His roll attack, which you just see, is different now after hotfix here. He would kind of roll towards the outside and then roll around the outside. I believe it's changed now, hasn't it?
Yeah, he does. He rolls to the outside and he rolls 3 times on the outside, and then he rolls across the middle again. But it's a pattern. Once you've kind of figured out what the pattern is, you can avoid it again.
When taking down all 4 of the side bosses, you'll also have the help of all 4 Batmen in this fight. So you'll be able to see their different effects and buffs.
That usually lasts about a minute. Purry chomps him.
In here
Right.
again, steam powered is really handy for just that shield that he throws up. GCPD, because there's no fountains to take down, it's not such an issue.
And speaking of shields, now the Tyrant is shielded, and we get these pillars to nuke down. They are only affected by weapon damage, and they only take 1 damage per hit. So a fast attacking weapon like Anhur's flurry shot there, or yeah, any
Various
fast
pulse
attacking.
beams.
Yeah, pulse beams are really they're really good for this.
Swarm made some as well for 1 on nature.
You see that pulse of damage, that pulse of yellow coming down on a column, that'll go round clockwise in the columns. You can see it on the other column now as well. That will pulse out with damage, which will one-shot most of the team. At full tier 5, most of the team has a chance that it won't one-shot them. But you need to be blocking through that, or you have a shield up, or anything like that to avoid it.
Yeah, there's no reason not to block it. You've got plenty of warning. You see the timer ticking away. There's no reason not to block it.
As soon as you bring the 4 pillars down, the boss will unshield, and you will get adds that will spawn. If you've got mini bosses up, if you've not closed all of the tunnels, you will get a mini boss instead of the adds. But again, we've killed all 4 bosses, so we've got the adds that come out, and it's similar adds to the ones that you start with, and you just take the adds down and then focus on the boss. You'll get a little bit of time between each of the phases that he does to take out the adds and to focus on the boss before he either shields again or he does the second type of phase, which is the penalty box phase.
When the boss does his roll... Sorry, Zen.
I was just going to say, the position of the boss, we've just pulled him over to kind of one of the anchor rims, kind of. If you look at the 4 pillars, so we've just pulled him over to one of the sides, just so it gives the rest of the team more room in the arena. Although there is a blue ball in the centre now after the hotfix.
Yeah, and another mechanic's just kicked in. If you look at Mitchell's perspective at the top right there, you see he's been imprisoned behind a blue shield. He's locked off from the fight. He cannot get out unless we, the team, carry the blue orbs into the shield to release him. It takes 2. There should be another person shielded, as locked away as well.
Sometimes, as with this case, the boss will target the same person, so you'll only have 1 person shielded.
So at that point,
like
if you get... Yeah, it looks like it's just Mitchell. But if you do get 2 people locked in, you really need to call out who you're going to get. Because this kind of phase, you want to drag on as long as possible. If you get both of the people out at the same time, you're going to get adds. Whereas most teams now, I think, can... If you have a healer locked away and a controller locked away, you can go for the controller because you have more power, whereas the healing is probably in abundance with the 1 healer.
You don't have any adds up, you've just got the boss. He's not going to be doing any kind of damage to anyone except the tank. The healers are the ones you're most affordable to lose. So yeah, you'll get 2 people will get kind of hit by this stun beam and they'll be locked into the boxes. And this phase will end as soon as you open both of them, but you can open one of them without causing the end of the phase. So you choose who you want to release. Generally speaking, we want as many DPS up as possible, and you need at least 1 tank, and then you'd rather have a controller than a healer.
You've just seen a mechanic there as well, very similar to Brother Eye in a Sanctum, where he kind of disappears and reappears, and as he reappears, there's an explosive wave. Took down 3 players who were in his vicinity. Again, in full tier 5 nowadays, you shouldn't be wiping on that, but you can see it coming. You want to keep your range anyway.
We've just seen the boss's roll mechanic there as well, pre-hotfix. If he was in the instant one-shot, but we believe now that it can be blocked through. successfully.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes it clips you and it doesn't do much. Sometimes you can block through it. Sometimes it'll take you out. So the one last thing to say about the boxes, you need 2 orbs to open up one particular penalty box. So there are 4 that will spawn, 2 for one side, 2 for the other side. You have to find 2 for the one that you want opened and put them in. And eventually the phases after hotfix, they last less long, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the one.
Even less long.
Even less longer. But
Mitchell's been released and you saw some ads come out. Senilex grabbed the aggro, pulled it right under the boss. So they go down as a consequence of the AoEs that are ticking off.
It is random as well where the ads will spawn. There doesn't seem to be kind of any logic to it. So sometimes you can get lucky they'll spawn right near you. Other times you gotta kind of track your way around your arena.
It is random which ads spawn as well, right? Because you can have any combination of the ads that you place in the tunnel, so you can have the flying ones that can't be pulled, so you have to actually actively seek them out and nuke them down.
Well, you only get the ones that can't be controlled in the 2 right-hand tunnels. You don't get them in the left-hand tunnels, so I think, if it's a right-hand tunnel that spawns ads, you get the ads that you find in those tunnels.
Yeah, that's what I meant as well. Like the tunnel that they come from is random.
Yeah, and that means that if you've got side bosses up, if you've got more than one up, it's going to be random which one comes first.
So it's a good idea for the tank just to kind of wait near the middle just before the last pillar goes down, just so you can immediately grab the aggro of the boss, and then it's easy then to get to either the 4 tunnels where the ads come out.
Couple of deaths there as well. You really got to be on the ball for picking people up. Because unlike the previous mini-bosses, sub-bosses, you can't get back into this fight. The door is locked. You see these beams he's firing from his eye as well. They do some, little damage, but they stun as well.
Oh, that was just one of my favourite attacks. He does the monster muncher attack. I call it. Yeah, where he just kind of munches on your head, and you get
don't
this
want to
cool
get that if you're not
munching
a tank.
effect.
But it
You can hear the crunching sound.
Yeah, the sound effects
awesome.
are fantastic.
If you've not got any of the sub-bosses up, these shield phases can be really irritating, because it's just, you cannot DPS the boss at all when he's like this, and more than that, there are these tiny little paradox energy spheres that actually float towards him and heal him up if they get to him. They don't heal him up much, it's not very noticeable, but it still happens, it just slows down the fight. If you do have mini-bosses up, these are the best phases, because it's a time when the main boss isn't attacking you at all. So it's sort of random which phases you get.
There is a feat built into that though. If you stop any of the healing orbs hitting them, you get a feat for that once you complete the raid.
Stop all of them.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
they're
not
not
allowed
easy to DPS down though.
Yeah, they're pretty difficult. And there's also a feat for not releasing anyone from the penalty boxes. We tried that at one point and we didn't get it. It was bugged or something. I'm not sure if they've fixed that yet or not.
I believe there's also a feat if you leave all 4 side bosses up, and
I've heard there's something like that, yeah. And the other thing to note is if you leave up the mini-bosses, you get their loot at the end, rather than when you fight them in the tunnels, obviously, if you've not fought them in the tunnels. But in the tunnels, you only get kind of 85 loot from them, whereas if you fight them as part of the boss fight, you get another set of boss loot from them, so you can get 86 or 87 loot from them, so you can get more of the really good loot by fighting them as part of the boss fight, which is a really nice thing, I think, to keep the boss fight interesting.
Yeah, it's basically just end boss loot from them, but it's still the same bad chance of getting the good stuff.
We've just seen 2 people get bubbled there, Anhur in the bottom right, and
me on the other side.
Best place for you. Should be on top.
So you've then got a choice: 2 DPS down. You want the best single target, obviously.
Yeah.
We've chosen Anhur, I think. I'm not sure why.
Pretty self-explanatory why you want to get me out, but you know.
Is that because you keep flicking towards the scoreboard?
When there's nothing to do, you just have to.
Am I on top? Am I on top?
The fans want to know what's going on with the scoreboard.
So you see there's two spheres just got brought in there by me, and then the shield comes down. The phase hasn't ended because Dreadwolf is still locked away, but now you've got your 2 DPS and the rest of the team to finish off the boss.
Yeah, Anhur jumps out and you watch, he finishes the fight brilliantly. It's a textbook end. Tachyon Blast, and down he goes.
Is that the secret to Quantum DPS then, Tachyon Blast?
I like it how you spoke about yourself in third person. Yeah, you see Anhur go in there, finishing the fight.
Face rolling the keyboard again.
Blast.
Helped by about 4 supply drops on him.
It's a team effort, but you know, make no mistake. Bam, he's dead.
He's dead!
That was their last shot, wasn't it? I killed him wrong.
Easiest part of the raid.
Yeah. And then we have the beautiful loot. After the 25th century. Exceptional recovery kits.
Oh, that's where I got that belt.
Yeah.
I still don't have any of that time traveler stuff.
But that's for another video.
I still haven't seen how that restaurant drying rack looks like. Who got it?
I've got one in my case.
Anhur got it, but it was bugged at the time or something.
Yeah, I didn't get it. But yeah, that's been the Paradox Wave. We've been Odyssey. We hope it's been useful to you. Thank you for watching.
Signing out. See you guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See.